can never have too many tools. Shop DeWalt deals at Lowe's. Get a free Select DeWalt 20-volt max power tool when you buy a Select 20-volt max 5-amp-hour battery kit. Plus, get a free additional DeWalt 20-volt max 8-amp-hour battery when you buy a DeWalt 10-inch 20-volt max dual-bevel compounded miter saw. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 6/24 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Inside Out Smile. I'm your host Dr. Amber Q, and you can probably guess what I'm going to speak about from the title. I say this every time, I think. You're probably getting bored of this line. But anyway, I like to state the obvious. So, I had a really funny experience this morning and the other day. The other day I witnessed someone being really angry. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my gosh, are you angry about what you're actually vocalizing, or how what you're vocalizing made you feel? Or is there something underneath all of this and you're using this as an excuse to vent? So I was sitting with that kind of over the weekend. And then today I had a really interesting chat with the lady who was helping me out with my breakdown cover renewal. And so I'd rang her up about the quote and how I would like it to be improved. And she suddenly started laughing and she was like, oh my gosh, you've made my day. And I was thinking, really? That's nice. What have I done? What have I said? Because I didn't think I'd said anything particularly funny. And she essentially said, oh, you know, people ring up and they're really worried about the prices, you know, because everything's going up. And she didn't say much else. But obviously from that, I took that people ring up and they're quite ratty. And we kind of had a bit of a laugh and a joke. But honestly, I was thinking the other day, I was scrolling, and I saw something where I think quite well-known psychiatrist was saying, and I can't remember if he was a Brit or American. Excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat. Shall I have a glass of water while I'm online? Let's see what that would be like. I've never done that before. Let's try it. Oh, so beautiful, right? So blessed to be able to drink water. And of course, as a Muslim, I say in the name of God when I drink water, and I know that that's going to alter the structure of the water. And there are studies to confirm that. But I'm digressing already. We're just into the podcast and I'm already digressing. Well, I think that has helped my frog in my throat. Now, what was I saying? So yes, this psychiatrist, who was either British or American, and he was essentially saying that society is collapsing. And I thought, okay, so he's referring to whatever, Britain, I guess, or the States. But then we look at all the societies that have collapsed all around the world because of actions that have been taken unjustly. And I think that it's really interesting because we've seen how amazing the Palestinians are with their fortitude. And I think that even in daily life, it is actually quite difficult when we look at the state of affairs. And it's interesting because I don't know, when one thinks about hope, I guess it's interesting, right? Because Islamically, and again, I always say this, I'm not a scholar, but Islamically, even if you know that, I don't know, for example, the world is going to end or something and you have a seed in your hand, you're meant to plant that seed. So I think for me, that means that, hey, we're always meant to be optimistic. And so with that, I take that as a signal that hope isn't meant to be kind of just, you know, a feeling that, you know, comes and then maybe goes, but it's something that we have to choose possibly imperfectly, right? Because obviously emotional regulation, can be hard. But that's the whole game, I guess, because you look again at the Palestinians and oh my gosh, their faith, so amazing. And that's because they have that optimism and trust in God. And I just think that day to day, as things do get more tough, that's the thing. And I think that's why, actually, I've just had an epiphany. That's why people with faith can sort of get through things, right? I've never understood how people without faith get through tough times, because I think that's really hard, because we know that the world is temporary, right? We're only here for a period of time, and we know that the world is actually physically being destroyed. And Islamically, certainly, if there's corruption by people, then the earth kind of reflects that, and we can see what's happening in the sea. I think it's so fascinating. It's such a fascinating topic. But the point is, I think that obviously the whole point of this podcast is about what happens to us on the inside changes what we experience on the outside. And so even if society is collapsing, then we can only kind of, I don't know, that certainly, for example, I can only control what is within myself. And I think generally that's the case anyway, because honestly, when I go out, you do see people that are just grumpy, in a bad mood, in a rush, but equally there are lots of lovely people as well. And I think that hope is also continuing to just carry on being kind to strangers, or start being kind to strangers and doing nice things. And we're talking about nice things when nobody is looking. I know these days there's so many instances of people on their phones, but I think life really is meant to be lived, not behind a screen. And so I think, I don't know, I think even on the tough days, we know that that life is a test. Things are not going to last forever, and that's what we've got to hold on to moving forward. And it's all a work in progress, I think, certainly for myself. But I feel that there are lots of great people around, and I really like the younger generation. And I was listening to this chap who's in Vietnam, and I'm not sure actually if he is Vietnamese. He may be Vietnamese, but he's in Vietnam, and it's just so lovely chatting with him, and his outlook was so optimistic. It was really lovely. So I think there's plenty to stay hopeful about, and so that's what I'm going to do. And I hope that helps you in some way. I don't know if you're feeling hopeful or hopeless, but just know that feeling will pass. And until the next episode, let's all create connection and not just change lives, but save lives.